So who are the hardest night bosses in Elden Ring NEIGHTREIGN? Now, Elden Ring NEIGHTREIGN is mostly about the final Night Lord. Well, one thing that will always determine the run, especially in Deep Night, is what bosses you'll be fighting before you get to the final Night Lord. Some of these bosses are incredibly hard, and I would argue some of these bosses can even be harder than the actual Night Lord in Deep Night. So today I'll be going over my top 5 hardest bosses that are not Night Lords but Day 1 and Day 2 bosses. Before we get to the top 5, I'll go over some honorable mentions. Now please let me know what bosses you think are the hardest Day 1 and Day 2 bosses, but these are the ones that I tend to struggle with the most. You'll notice a pattern with these guys and why I think they are so hard, but these are the 5 that I picked out with some honorable mentions. First honorable mention, I have Commander Now. Now this guy is a problem because of his 2 knights. Not only is he hard, but his 2 knights also can be a problem. And it can honestly be overwhelming if you are not having a high level run, because Banished Knights already have a pretty difficult moveset and they do not take any status effects, so you need to have a lot of physical damage to be able to take them down quickly. And with all of them and Nile jumping your team at once, it can be quite a difficult fight unless you're a very high level. My last honorable mention is the Draconic Tree Sentinel. Now I mostly get this guy when I go against Caligo, and I do go against him pretty often, so I do go against this guy more often than I would like. Now this guy is a little hit or miss for me, kind of similar to Commander Now. I feel like I either absolutely burst them down or I really struggle against them. I feel like the reason for that is he does a lot of damage, so unless you have a ton of damage so you can kill him before he's able to go into his second phase, you will struggle. Now his 2 knights, I don't really think they're an issue. They're pretty easy to deal with, but it's just how hard he can be and how much damage he can do. Them distracting is also an issue. And Deep Night, unless you have a lot of damage negation, they can also tank a good bit of damage as well. So that can also be a problem. They can do a lot of damage and they can tank a good amount of damage, so it might take you a while. I don't think they're the reason this boss is hard at all, but they just make the experience a little more difficult than it has to be. So number 5, I have our first Day 1 boss, and I think these guys are honestly really hard simply because they are Day 1 bosses. So on Day 1, you're usually going to be a way lower level, and usually you'll be fighting way easier bosses. But I feel like these guys are actually really hard for Day 1, especially because they spawn together and they're attacking you right off the bat together. So unless you're able to separate them either with your team or by yourself quickly, it'll just be such a struggle to deal with them. And in Deep Night, they'll be doing a lot of damage, so it's going to be hard to find a good opportunity to decent damage to kill one of them and to be able to avoid most of the attacks. Like, no matter what character you're playing, unless you had like a fantastic Day 1, you're going to be around level 8 or 9. And around level 8 or 9, you're still going to be getting like 2 to 3 shot by most attacks, which really isn't a lot of attacks, especially because these guys move pretty quickly and there's 2 of them and they stay pretty close together. Like I said, unless you're able to separate, they'll probably chain their attacks, and if you get hit once, you'll be kind of dead. I feel like most of the difficulty of these guys just comes from the fact that they are Day 1 bosses, but they are nonetheless very difficult. Number 4, I have Dancer. That's probably not be a good clip to demonstrate Dancer because we just kind of melted my team and I in this clip. But I just think Dancer can be extremely hard in the second phase if you're not able to kill her quickly, simply because of her Beyblade attack. Now her Beyblade attack can basically one-shot every single character, and it literally tracks you across the map, so it's hard to avoid. It one-shots you, and she does it pretty consistently. And the issue is with that attack, when she's doing it, there's basically no window to attack her, so you just kind of like a standstill where she can kill you, but you really can't do anything to her, which I think is why she makes this fight pretty difficult. But like I said, if you have a lot of damage, you're just able to burst her down. I mean, she's not an issue, but that's true with any boss. If you don't have a lot of damage and the fight actually drags a little bit, she is a monster. Number 3, I have Mogul of the Blood. Now, if you're noticing a pattern with these DLC bosses, I mean, the DLC just added some absolute demons, especially in Deep Night, and that is mostly what I play, so these are the bosses that I am mostly scared of. Sometimes I avoid Balancers and Dreadlord just because I don't want to fight the night bosses. These guys are absolute problems. Now, I don't believe Moog is that hard because of his like moveset. I believe what makes him hard is the gimmick they added to him in Elden Ring NEIGHTREIGN of him summoning those pillars that can attack you. Now, those pillars can do so much damage unless you're able to destroy them, I think Moog is a pretty agile boss that moves around a lot and he has a lot of AoE. So he doesn't really give you a chance to destroy them. He will constantly be on top of you doing damage to you, and he does even move you around, so you could actually walk into one of those pillars and take a lot of damage. That's why I think this fight is so hard. It's because of its gimmick, not entirely Moog. Number 2, I have the Nameless King, and honestly, I'm still a little shocked that they brought Nameless King for both of his phases for Elden Ring Night. He's the only night boss that has 2 health bars, so it is a very shocking decision. I honestly believe if they were to do Nameless King now, they would probably do a Demon Prince kind of deal, where his first phase is a day 1 and the second phase is day 2. But I mean, right now he's the way he is. You just have to fight them both on day 1, which I think can be very difficult. Nameless King himself is a hard boss, a very hard boss, but his dragon can also really drag. He flies around a lot. You can't lock onto any part of him but his head, which can actually make landing hits on him pretty difficult sometimes. And like I said, his first phase really wouldn't be an issue because it is pretty predictable if Nameless King himself wasn't so difficult. Nameless King himself being so hard and the bird not being necessarily easy is what I feel like gives this boss fight the boost it needs to be this high on my ranking. Nameless King has a lot of poise, there's a lot of damage, has a lot of moves. One of the most complex Dark Souls 3 bosses. And in Night Rain, I wouldn't say they made him much harder. He's practically the same, but all of those translated into Night Rain with a 2 health boss fight in Deep on Night is just a lot to handle most of the time, even if you're having good runs. And number 1, I don't think this is a shock to anyone. I have Artorias. Now, this guy is just an absolute demon. I would go as far as to say he's probably harder than most Night Lords, at least their standard version. I don't know about Everdark versions. This guy has unlimited poise, does not take a lot of status effects, does so much damage, and is absolutely relentless. I have not seen them buff a boss this much ever. This boss is absolutely crazy. Now, he was always pretty difficult even in Dark Souls 1, but the way they juiced him up in Elden Ring Night Rain is absolutely absurd. Like I said, whenever I see this guy, I am just so scared. I think he might be harder than Dreadlord for me. He just has so much HP. He does not stagger. I think I've had fights where I literally takes the entire health bar without him staggering even once. He barely takes any status effects, and he just does so much damage. It doesn't even have to be a special attack. Even with a normal attack, he can just melt your entire health. He is just an absolute problem. He's a very fun fight, but he is very hard. Well, that's my ranking of the hardest day 1 and day 2 bosses. Now, there is a few more that I did also want to mention, but I feel like these guys are notably above the rest, at least from my experience. Of course, all the DLC night bosses are honestly pretty difficult, so I honestly did want to give an honorable mention to them, but I feel like these guys are just a little bit above the rest. Now, please let me know what night bosses you find to be difficult, because I have not seen a lot of discussion on this topic, and I feel like it's very important. Sometimes in my squad, just literally skip bosses based on what night bosses they have. So it's a discussion that I really do want to see more of, so let me know what you think. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. I post a ton of Night Rain videos, and I love talking about this game, and I'll be posting more very soon, because this game just has so much to talk about and so much to digest.